Greetings everyone, this is Connor from Dagora TV, and in this video I'm talking about how Bethesda Game Studios confirmed that their next video game is going to feature multiplayer. So I know what a lot of you were thinking when you clicked on this video. It's a bit of a jarring thing and a bit of a surprise to expect that Bethesda Game Studios' next game is going to have a multiplayer mode. It's something that I've talked about before in videos where I actually had a video dedicated saying should they have multiplayer? If they are, it should be more co-op focused instead of having like, you know, this kind of like online arena battles kind of thing that we have. You know, we gave like Uncharted 4 and Last of Us that are added onto the experience, but instead they should just have like maybe having a friend to join and things like that. But if you want to go check out that video, go ahead and go check it out. But what I'm talking about today is the job advert on the ZeniMax Online Studios website, where basically they're advertising for on the ZeniMax careers for a senior core tech engineer. And this, maybe, you know, some people will be thinking, well, it matters kind of what studio it's at. You know, there's the Maryland studio and the Vancouver studio. The Vancouver studio, we know that's kind of there to help with, you know, phone games and the side experiences that Bethesda Game Studios are creating, and the main studio is the Maryland one, which is the ones that are making the games like Fallout and Elder Scrolls and possibly Starfield. But it is the Maryland studio at Rockville, Maryland, which is where the Bethesda Game Studios office is held. They're advertising for a senior core tech engineer, which is going to be obviously a main position of the studio. And they said that they want the core tech engineer to help maintain, optimize and extend our core engine technology. You'll be assisting a small team of core engineers with graphics, optimization, resource management, editor, exporters, audio, input and multi-platform support. So kind of covering a lot of bases, you know, in the game development itself. But the interesting part of where it goes down to the multiplayer area, because, you know, we're not really seeing a huge amount of multiplayer right here, is lower down on the application. It says they're looking for experience with developing for an online multiplayer environment. So that kind of really says that, you know, they're looking for someone who can really come in and kind of help with making multiplayer. So because, you know, Bethesda Game Studios as a team, not really well experienced with making for online multiplayer areas. You know, where a lot of their games, you know, all their games really being single player focused. You know, Fallout 4, Skyrim, Oblivion, Fallout 3, Morrowind. You know, all being single player games. You know, it's kind of really a step in a new territory when they're making for an online multiplayer environment. Another thing that kind of helps with the online multiplayer area as well is that they're looking for experience with Vulcan or DirectX 12. And the big thing here is Vulcan. I was like, what the hell is Vulcan? I've never heard of this thing before. So I put it into Google. I went Vulcan. I was like, what's this? And basically, it's another, you know, it's kind of a similar thing to DirectX 12. But the games that support Vulcan are mainly multiplayer focused games like Star Citizen, Star Wars Battlefront, Dota 2, you know, games that really are living and dying on the multiplayer. You know, Dota 2 and Star Wars Battlefront solely multiplayer games, and Star Citizen is definitely heavily reliant on its multiplayer. And in Bethesda, Doom 2016 is there, which has a multiplayer element to it. Obviously more of a single player focused game, but its multiplayer element on the PC looks like it's going to be helping with Vulcan. So Vulcan looks like it's something that really is emphasizing what, you know, we kind of really need in these multiplayer games to kind of help support it. And a lot of games that are really kind of Xbox focused, like Star Wars Battlefront, are using Vulcan or DirectX 12, and DirectX 12 is something that they were said in the Xbox One Scorpio spec reveals is something there to kind of help really boost and prosper the graphical fidelity of their games on the Xbox Scorpio. But Xbox One, some games do use DirectX 12, but they're Xbox One exclusives like Gears of War 4 and Quantum Break as well. So there is, you know, obviously DirectX 12 is something that's used by primarily Xbox and PC games, and Vulcan kind of helping with this as well. So kind of really getting that bit of an Xbox and Bethesda partnership kind of helping a bit there as well. But, you know, it's a big surprise to see this online multiplayer thing coming into it. You know, a lot of news kind of came in when I woke up this morning and I kind of looked online and I saw this article talking about, a few articles actually, talking about how it's going to have an online multiplayer environment. I was like, well, you know, that's kind of an interesting thing to kind of have there. So it's something that really is going to be kind of new for a Bethesda game. Obviously, we haven't really seen it a lot. It looks like it's going to be in for Starfield or maybe the next AAA game afterwards. But there was an article back which I was able to look at. I was watching a few videos actually. I was watching one by Mr. Matty Players, and he brought up this article by Game Rant between Todd Howard and themselves, an interview. When he said that Bethesda Game Studios have actually made multiplayer modes for their games before, but then they end up scrapping them. So, which is kind of an interesting article. If you want to go read that article, I'll put it in the link description. But Todd Howard, you know, that's a big thing to say. You know, that all their games, they said that Oblivion, Fallout 3, Skyrim, and Fallout 4, they pitch, you know, multiplayer ideas and start making it of what they could have as a multiplayer mode for their games, and they end up getting rid of it. And some people would say, you know, yeah, that's for the better, you know, they're making a better single-player game. But other people would say, you know, I'd like to see what they could do with a multiplayer environment. I mean, I'm one of the people that would, you know, love to see what they could do, you know, in a multiplayer area, you know, just to see them step into something a bit new and a bit more interesting to see what they can do. Also, but, you know, it could be the whole thing of co-op, and I'd be more than happy with that, be able to get my friend in, and be able to run around and do quests and stuff with my friend in one of these worlds would be really, really interesting. Like, how many times have we played Skyrim, and we've done a dungeon, and we thought, well, how cool would it be if we had a friend there? And, you know, there is a couple of mods that are trying to get shared universes and online multiplayer areas into Skyrim and things like that, and one of the big reasons why Elder Scrolls Online was so highly anticipated was because it has had that whole thing of playing an Elder Scrolls game with your friend and playing a Bethesda game with your friends, which is going to be really cool, you know, to see this kind of step in a new area, because, you know, there's always a lot of rumors about, you know, these games going multiplayer. One of the big things I remember years ago now, going way back, going like 2009, 2010, was that Fallout 4 was going to be an MMO. That was going to be Fallout Online. There wasn't going to be an Elder Scrolls Online, but it was going to be Fallout Online, which was a major huge rumor, and then that turned out not to be true, and it turned out to be Elder Scrolls Online, which, you know, was really which was really great and really, you know, good for, you know, the Elder Scrolls fans, you know, for building up, you know, for the game. But, you know, it left some people disappointed, left some people divided. We know what I've talked about that. I beat the dead horse on that way too much. But in this instance, it's definitely not looking like it's going to be an MMO. It looks like it's just going to be a side experience away from the game, which is going to feature a multiplayer mode. Maybe it could be you and your friend get together and co-op. Maybe it could be, you know, if it's started for maybe space battles or something like that. Or maybe it could be just, you know, like you get a friend and kind of do a horde mode or something like that. It could be something small, just something that I can add in experience for achievements and things like that. But it's going to be interesting to see what they kind of come up with. Like, especially if they do, you know, do pitch multiplayer a lot by the sounds of things with a lot of their old games, and this time it looks like they're carrying on with it, and they felt like, you know, we're going to do something new, which, you know, they've got the freedom to do. Maybe they've wanted to do multiplayer for quite a long time, but, you know, the publishers said, you know, just kind of stick to what we know. But, you know, with their last 3 games selling extremely well, Fallout 3, Skyrim, and Fallout 4, maybe, you know, they've got the creative freedom to do what they want, you know, when it comes out to multiplayer. Maybe they said, you know, we want to do these things, we want to have a new IP, we want to, you know, have multiplayer in the game, we want to do stuff that we haven't done before to kind of keep their job a bit more interesting, because, you know, when you're doing the same thing, game in, game out, it's going to get a bit stale, and I am interested and excited to kind of see what they can do to kind of bring a multiplayer environment to a Bethesda game, you know, see what it is going to look like, first of all. I'd be interested to see if they do talk a bit about it at length before the game comes out, you know, like, is it something that they're just going to emphasize the single player on, or talk about the multiplayer? They're obviously going to bring it up and announce it, you know, as like one of the features of the game. But I just don't want to really have this experience where it is going to be a completely tacked on thing. I do want it to be enjoyable. I do want it to be something that, if you do want to, you know, give it a go, I don't think it's going to be something that I would see playing my main game on. You know, it's not going to be a Call of Duty experience where it's got its single player campaign and it's multiplayer and everyone is just playing the multiplayer. No, I think it is just going to be something that is going to be a side experience, but I still want that to be enjoyable. I don't want it to be something that I just jump on and play. And I think, why the hell have they wasted the time making this? You know, what a waste of an experience, which is kind of what I get with the Uncharted multiplayer. You know, when I jump in and play that, it isn't something which is like, you know, I'm so happy they made this, you know, I know a lot of people enjoy it. But for me, it is something like, you know, I'm never going to, you know, jump in and play this regularly. It's something I'm just going to nip into and then probably not play again, because I just don't care enough. And this could be that, but it also could be an answer to the mods, like I said before, of, you know, people do want to play co-op with their friends, and, you know, Bethesda might have seen this, and this might be giving you their opportunity to be able to play the game with your friends, because it is something that, you know, people do want to do. But people are panicking online. I've seen a few people tweeting saying, like, you know, no online in Bethesda games, get it out, completely scrap it, it'll ruin the game and things like that. The single player is still going to be there. It is something that can be ignored. There is a lot of multiplayers in a lot of games, like Watch Dogs and things like that, that are just completely ignored. It is not an online only experience, you know. It's something that, you know, like in Watch Dogs, for instance, I'll use that as an example, that where people can get into your game, it can just be turned off, it can just be ignored. In a lot of these games where they've got multiplayer, it's just ignored, so I don't really get why it will affect your experience if you do want to completely solely ignore it, because, you know, you can just judge the single player game by how it is, which I think a lot of people are going to be doing when the game comes out anyway. It's not going to be something that's going to justify their experience, this multiplayer mode. It's not going to be a hugely new experience, and I do think it's a bit clumsy by Bethesda to possibly announce online multiplayer in a job advert on the ZeniMax website, which is, you know, something that I suppose that they've got to do to get their adverts out there. But you know, if they kind of announcing it this way, it's kind of interesting. You think maybe Todd Howard in an interview would say they're maybe testing around with multiplayer, because they've been really open in their interviews so far since Fallout 4 has come out. So definitely interested to see what's going to come out this year, with this multiplayer. Hopefully we'll hear about it at E3. So let me know what you think, by the way. I want to see what your comments are. I want to see what the reaction is, because the first reaction that I've kind of seen is mainly negative. A lot of people complaining, a lot of people moaning, and I kind of find that a little bit surprising, you know, to people not wanting to see Bethesda kind of take a little bit of an avenue down a different step. And I just want to see what, you know, the core fan base, especially with the Elder Scrolls, because I've got a lot of the Elder Scrolls fan base in my comment section, and what would they kind of really see, like a co-op mode or just a side experience? It's not going to be Elder Scrolls Online 2 that Bethesda Game Studios are making, so just let me know what you think. Make sure you like the video, subscribe for more Elder Scrolls and Shadow of War content, and I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.